Years ago, I decided to just sit down and give it a go and see how much I enjoyed. And initially, it was just meant to be one book.
What made you go into writing for children?
Was really into writing poems.
Oh,
Never published, so they're still somewhere in the attic, in a big old box. Yeah, that's based on this little toy bunny here.
well,
So she
adorable.
was the inspiration to my first book. I think a lot of parents will probably recognize.
I think many of you who travel to Emirates can have the beautiful opportunity to view Kathy's creations Can you tell us more about that?
I enjoy watching a good movie. I enjoy listening to
Of
to
course.
beautiful or to a podcast or to some music. But I think it's important to appreciate all the different types of media.
So many different skills to be built in children, like reading.
Or send me a message if you're the person. I love receiving private messages as well. I get a lot of messages from mums.
Hi everyone, and I'm very thrilled to have a very special guest with me. And today with us we have Kathy Urban joining us. And Kathy is a wonderful author for children's book, and she has been traveling all around the world. And in Dubai, she has done a phenomenal work of coming up with these beautiful books for children. And I would like Kathy to introduce herself and talk and tell us more about her beautiful journey.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Good morning. Yes, so as you said, thanks for the lovely introduction. I'm for the last 2.5 years, I've been able to call me a children's book author. It's not something I've always done, but I've always enjoyed reading. I've always enjoyed writing. I've always enjoyed listening to stories. I've also always enjoyed making up my own stories. I think there was something that was always in me, but I think as many other would feel probably the same. You need to find the time to actually go about and do it and write those stories down. So these ideas have been with me for a long time. But a few years ago, I decided to just sit down and give it a go and see how much I enjoyed. And initially, it was just meant to be one book.
Yes.
But 4 books later, I've decided to stay on this path for a little longer.
Amazing. Because like we were having a chat, and then you were in the journalist, your education side and everything that you have been studying. And a lot of times we know that, whoever wants to come up with something are thinking about it, are hesitant. And so what made you go into writing for children?
Yes. So I think it is, because book writing, any sort of writing is very subjective. And I think sometimes you worry about how it's being received. And that's something that holds you back as well. It's also the time and the big question, can I actually do it? And what made me do it is, as you said, I've had it in my mind. It's on the back of my mind all the time that I always want to try and do it. I've, ever since I've been able to write, I've been keeping diaries. I've been making up my own stories as a kid, as a 10-year-old, as a teenager.
Lovely.
I was really into writing poems.
Oh,
Never published, so they're still somewhere in the attic, in a big old box. So it's something I've always enjoyed. I find sometimes it's easier for me to express myself writing than actually speaking, because I think paper is more patient than man, and you have the chance to kind of really think about it, tweak things.
Oh,
so
yes.
It's something I've really, really enjoyed. So how did it come? And so I've done. I've worked as a journalist for nearly 10-12 years, which was very different. It's a very fast-paced environment, working in news. Every day there's a new story, and it's very much about me writing down other people's stories. In a way, this is true as well to that, because I don't appear in my books, but these were my ideas for a story, and I wanted to give this a go. And so about 3 years ago, I think, we had just sort of come back to Dubai. I had just finished another freelance assignment. It was my husband who said to me, Kathy, you've always had these ideas for children's books. Why don't you just give it a go? And that's how it started. And then, of course, it's the questions of what you're going to write, because you have this idea and that idea and another idea, and so you have to sort of settle down for one. And then the idea I eventually settled for is an idea that's based on this little toy bunny here.
Oh,
So, so she
adorable.
was the inspiration to my first book. I think a lot of parents will probably recognize somehow sort of disheveled little bunny, tatty little toy that the kids take with them everywhere. It's usually the
Of
comfort toy.
course,
I think
yes.
any mom you speak to, they will, maybe one of us had a special teddy toy at home at some point.
To self-soothe,
To self-soothe. It's that comforter toy that goes everywhere, that goes in the pram, that goes to bed, that kids take to nursery on their first day of nursery. So we had this very special little toy bunny as well, and on the occasion that toy bunny would go missing because we left it at the playground, it dropped out of the pram, the typical
yes,
story, right?
Yes.
And so when that happened to us, of course my daughter was very upset. And as a parent, the instinct is, okay, I want to make sure that she's fine. You want to soothe her. You want to find the toy, but you couldn't find it.
And you can't replace it with
You
a
can't
new
replace
one.
it with anyone. I mean, some people have been more prepared than me. They had actually backup toys. I never had. I never thought about that. It's a good option. So the first thing that came to my mind at the time was I made up stories about what fun adventure that toy bunny might be on. Just sort of keep the edge off, take the edge of the situation, which was a very real situation for my 3-year-old at the time. To say no, don't worry, she's not lost. She's just hopped off on a fun little adventure. And so what happened then? She and I started to make up stories from that day on. About those fun adventures, things that she could be doing.
Beautiful.
And they were just fun, like she and I really enjoyed that, like just being creative, imagining different sorts of adventures. And then, it's credit to my husband who then said, you know what, she loves those stories. I think, other kids would love those stories too. And that's how it came about. And that's how this very first book came around, how Hop Lola Hop came about.
Yes.
And then the other 2 books in the series followed fairly quickly, just because I had these ideas and those stories already in the back of my mind. It was quite easy then to write the other 2 as well.
Wow.
But yeah, so that's the first one.
Is this personifying your girl?
I would say I have got 2 girls at home, so I could never say it's based on one girl. It's I think it's a combination of children. Like I love kind of, I don't know, I love, for instance, going to the playground and just watch children and see what they do, how they play, how they act, how imaginative they are, how curious they are, how engaged and active they are. And I think a lot of that influenced the characters in my book. So they're not specifically based on one child only, although definitely my kids had influenced me, in forming the characters in the books.
And I think many of you who travel to Emirates can have the beautiful opportunity to view Kathy's creations can you tell us more about that?
Yes, so that's a wonderful opportunity that recently came about. I've been able to, all my books now, all my stories here have been animated. And are now showing exclusively on Emirates Airlines on the ICE program. So if you tune into the pre-kids section, it's a channel that features lots of other beautiful stories for the younger children, for the younger passengers. And now there's a channel which is called Storytime Fun with Lola and Friends, and that features all of my children's books, which have been beautifully animated. I'm really, really chuffed. I mean, I saw it last week when we flew back from Europe from the winter break, and I didn't know whether the stories were going to be on yet, but they were, and there was definitely a big butterfly moment seeing them sort of on live on the screen. And I don't know whether people guessed it, that I was the person who wrote the stories, because I was sort of hopping around and showing everyone on the screen, like, look,
absolutely,
look, they're there. So that was really nice. That was a beautiful moment.
Such amazing milestones. Just a question out of curiosity. So, like, if you have different, are they in continuation?
Yes and no. So they have. So these 3 books, they're part of a series. They're part of a series, but you can pick up any of the copy. It doesn't necessarily build on the other. So it features the same characters. The setup is fairly similar. The sort of the story. So there's a certain framework that I have built for that particular series. But they all take place in different settings. They're slightly different storylines, so they don't build upon each other.
Right.
So you can pick up one book, and if you enjoyed that book, you can take another book. So there is not a particular order. I mean, this one is the first book, and this is the second, the Yummy Market Day Adventure, and then the Christmas title is the 3rd book.
Beautiful.
Which was really nice to write, which I really enjoyed writing. But no, they don't build upon each other. So they don't grow older. They stay the same. They just have a really good adventure.
And the latest one is The Little Hands.
Kind Little Hands.
Yes.
That's the latest title. So
What inspires you to come up with a new book? The theme, the creating of the character.
I mean, I think there are lots of. It's very difficult to kind of pin it to one thing. I think naturally I'm a very curious person, so I always go and I see lots
You
of
love
things.
to travel.
I love to travel, but when I sort of try and pin it down, I think it comes down to two things. And one thing being, I think I'm very heavily influenced by nature and the way I grew up and experienced and moved in nature as a kid. I was a tree climber, not a tree hugger so much, maybe as well, maybe these days, but I was more a tree climber. I really explored nature and I was outside a lot when I was a kid, and I really enjoyed that. And then I draw from these sort of childhood memories, and then see how my kids and other children these days, explore life, explore nature, explore the world, and how they grow up in, and I compare that. And I think it's a combination of these two elements that I sort of try and weave together into my stories, because quite often, especially for kids, it's important to think about how the kid, how the child reader sort of perceives, or experiences the book. So it's very important that I write in a way that attracts the child, that's attractive to them, that they can understand it. So I often go back to my own childhood and think about, so what would little me be thinking about that particular situation. And that's sort of where my voice comes in as an author. It's a lot of like, how did little Kathy would experience something like that in the story. And that's how Kind Little Hands came about. So it's a story about kindness, being kind to others, being kind to nature.
That is so important for children
It's
to...
also a story which I think is very important, that makes the point of that there is a place for nature even in urban settings, because we sometimes think of wildlife and nature as being something else, somewhere outside the blocks. But no, I mean, nature can be. We're just in Dubai. We're in the middle of Dubai. We're in the middle of the city, where we can hear birds outside. We see flowers outside, and that story is about a boy who saves a tired little bee from the streets of a busy city. And if you actually walk around our compound here today, you will actually notice there are bees as well. You don't notice them immediately, so they are there. And I think what I'm
the
trying
relevance
to, the relevance, it is really relevant. So I think what's important for me when I write stories, that it's something that the kids can recognize from themselves, that they're familiarized with themselves, that they can connect with, that it's something that could happen to them. I mean, there are fantastic imaginative stories about a different world, but my stories are very much based in the here and now.
Yes.
That could happen, like things that could happen to the kids, and that's sort of currently what I'm writing. Yeah.
I'm just your fan, because because I have myself been in the early years, and having the privilege to go and be part of so many nurseries in UAE, and connecting with children. And I think these are the foundation blocks: the age and the year, and then you being fortunate to have 3 children and having the opportunity to feel how the kids are feeling, and what is it that they require, like about the stuffed toy or the teddy bear, which happens to be a sanctuary for every child.
Yeah.
And then translating it into a meaningful storybook, which brings in so many different skills to be built in children, like reading, connecting the dots, like with different versions and themes, like having kindness, and it just is spreading so much education, awareness, and literacy.
No, it's literacy, and I mean, I think a lot of us, try and it's something that I, as an author, it's very important for me to build, to support and encourage literacy. But it's more through, it's less of a trying teaching kids, because that's what they do in school. For me, it's about taking children on an adventure and showing them how much fun it is to explore and discover a story through reading, through a book, rather than there are so many other mediums. We can go to the theater, we can go to the movies, we've got all the programs on the TV channels. There's so many things we can do, but I think books are very much one of those elements. And I think there are so many. Of course, there are so many beautiful things about it, because you, as a reader, you're part of creating that story.
Yes.
You read the you read the words, or you listen to the words, you see the pictures, and they do start sort of moving in your mind, there's the stories that are now on Emirates. It's something that starts in in the little person's brain as well. And
I love how you have infused an animation, because everything is so online. Everything the kids are so used to, being on their screens. So this is a beautiful way of getting them to, like weave the reading with the relation to.
I will have to say I was very careful to make sure it's very slow moving. So when you see the animations, for instance, they are they're very gentle. So they support the story. It's still a traditional story time that kids can listen to. They could even fall asleep to on the plane. But the pictures, similar to the book, they support the story.
Yes.
They support the story, and you can follow it, and it is very beautifully done. And I think there's nothing wrong. We do enjoy. I enjoy watching a good movie. I enjoy listening to
Of
to
course.
beautiful, or to a podcast, or to some music. But I think it's important to appreciate all the different types of media as well. And I think books are beautiful. And
Oh yes.
I feel very lucky that I'm able and privileged to write books and share adventures and hopefully entertain children, because I think that's what it's about. I mean, the best way of learning is by, not feeling that you're being taught something, that you're actually
Yes.
riding on an adventure, and then suddenly you sort of decode those lessons in that story. So whenever you pick up one of my books, yes, there are morals, there are lessons, there's subtle messages inside, but for
But
me,
in a subtle way.
yes, the overarching, goal for me is to make sure that, I have someone who wants to finish the story, like page by page until the very end, and gets so excited, wants to know, feels with the character, and wants to know what happens all the way until the end.
Right.
And yes, there is a lesson, because, this is how we do. Kids grow up, they learn things
course.
every day, but through playing, it's learned through play. As you said, you go to a lot of nurseries, and that's how they learn. And I hope my books do something similar.
Oh,
for them as
absolutely,
well.
they are. And I think, like, as us growing up, I mean, I was an ardent reader. I just always was so fond of having my new book to read, and I would love my children to, be in that habit of reading and enjoying, like you say, not forcing them,
Yeah.
but letting them have this passion from within to, to pick up a book and then make that relevance and open their imagination. Because if not, then it becomes very hard at a bigger age to get used to, reading.
Yeah.
These habits are formed from the start. Yeah.
No, it's true. I see that with my children. We have, I've got 3 children.
So, Kathy, comes to my next question. How important do you think it is to create these wonderful stories at the back of the mind, having the children to be motivated? Like, do you plan, like, because you travel a lot, so do you get inspired, because I know that writers, they want, like, new, where do you get all those new?
Those ideas from.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, I do keep a little notebook with me,
Okay.
to make sure if there's something that sort of tickles my interest, that I sort of log it into my notebook, just to make sure that, even though I might not get around to write the story today, but maybe for another day. So there are lots of things and impressions. So with Kind Little Hands, for instance, a lot of it was also inspired by a summer in Europe, where we traveled a lot around France a lot, and we came across lots of beautiful gardens, which were just completely wild. The way they've been done, not completely manicured, but they're just simple. And it got me like, sometimes it's things that just get you thinking about how amazing nature is, and like finding ways to thrive in all places. Be it, somewhere in the mountains, of course, in nature, but also in cities, if you give it a chance. And I think that's definitely, it's things like that, that I sort of log in my mind sometimes, and then I find, and then I'm, it's like a puzzle piece that I sometimes then take to weave into different stories.
Beautiful.
So I think that's what I enjoy about writing stories as well. I think that it's not like the journalist in me who would report exactly on something that would happen. It's weaving lots of different little sort of puzzle pieces into
Right.
one coherent storyline. I think that's really what I enjoy. It's
Yes.
like really creating something. It's like a blank canvas you start with, and then you add lots of little elements, and that's really the joy
Beautiful,
of it.
because it shouldn't just be one element. I think that, I mean, technically, because I love looking at it from a philosophical point of view, we should always have that creative, imaginative spirit within us, even as we grow up, and this is the best time. And I'm so inspired how you chose to target children as the audience, because they love to make these stories, and it's like making them feel they're a fairy, or like a, a flying Aladdin on a magic carpet, or just taking wherever your mind takes you.
Yeah.
You know.
It's a journey, and I think that is the beauty of it. And I think you're talking, because the age group I'm currently writing for is the very young, the preschoolers, the children who either cannot read just yet, or are just about or learning to read. And the nice thing is they are so, as you said, they're so imaginative. They love listening to stories. I mean, we all love listening to stories. We just sort of, as we grow older, we're looking for different ways to enjoy stories. Whilst they're very, very happy with sitting in a quiet room and just listening to it. And it's something that inspires me as well, because I go back to remembering the little girl that I was once, who loved listening to the stories my dad would make up for me, for instance.
Wonderful. How do you feel sometimes when you are doing a book reading for children, and or sometimes you get feedback from children themselves inquiring from you about the story or the character? How does it feel seeing your themes coming alive in those beautiful minds?
You know what? With the Lola books, I get a lot of hugs. Because I do try. It's quite funny. It's quite funny because I read the story. I usually offer a little introduction to sort of as a warm up, sort of convey the themes. The themes of having a friend like a little toy bunny, and how children feel about having that that special toy. They all tell me about their special toys.
Beautiful.
Sometimes it's a teddy, sometimes it's a bunny, it's a monkey. There's so many different ones, and they all tell me how they feel whenever they have them, and how they feel when they don't have them. So they immediately connect with the characters, and I think you see that at the end of the story time usually, as I said, and they come up, and I leave the classroom and I get a lot of hugs.
Oh.
And they're so keen to tell me about their toys as well.
Oh, beautiful.
So that is something I really enjoy, that I can see, like, yes, they have connected because it's something that is relevant to their lives. And so that's something I really, it is a lot of fun to see that.
Beautiful. I would want to talk about this all the hours, but I'm going to drift a little bit and ask you about women who want to start up their own business, or women who do not have the time with their children or managing their families. How important it is for a woman, because usually, we see them doing such strenuous hours of finishing their degrees, college, graduating, and then not applying all those skills in the real corporate world, and in being in UAE, how facilitating the platforms over here are for anyone who's listening out there who wants to pursue their passion in any field.
I mean, what I've found is that living in the UAE has enabled me the opportunity to try something else. So, like you said, there's a lot of us who have, who've studied, who came in with a degree, and then life took over, and they might have, I don't want to say, maybe derailed to an extent. And I think ever since we came here, and yes, I did a job, I also looked after my kids, and that's what I love as well. I'm able to actually enjoy the time with my kids. I mean, having children is a choice. You have 3. I want to spend time with them, but at the same time, there's the little bit of your creative passion, your creative outlet that you also want to pursue. And I think it is, living here has helped me do that. I can, I usually spend my mornings working when the kids are in school, and in the afternoons, for instance, it sounds funny, I enjoy the drives home from school because it gives me time to speak with my children, hear about their day, what they do. I do make a point in spending the weekends with the kids, but I think at the same time, I also realize, and I think it helped, especially because I have 2 girls, I think it's important to show them that as a woman, as a mother, you're also able to do something else and not just be at home. I am at home, I help them, I read with them, we do things together, we have dinners together.
Their time is not being compromised.
It's not, but I think
away.
At the same time it's important to show them that you do have another life and it's okay. And I don't think you should feel guilty about it ever. I think it's inspiring. I think it's the fact that my daughter, when I published the first book, and she was, I think, 8 at the time, so she was slightly out of the age range. But I remember I had this first author copy with me the next morning. It was gone. I was meant to have a photo shoot, and it was gone, and I didn't know where it was. It turns out my daughter took the copy into school to show it to her class.
Oh.
So I do think whatever we do is something, again, it's similar to the story Certainly.
How does that make you
It
feel?
inspires them. I
Yeah.
don't tell them like, no, you have to do what I do, but they see what we do and they see the passion, and I think it does kind of leave a message, it does make an impact on them.
And I mean, just I think that is so important that the children understand from a young age that, and they're going to feel proud of their moms, that that this is being done by them pursuing their own goals for their own betterment. They will actually one day realize what an amazing job you were doing, juggling with different roles, and at the same time not compromising, and then also not being bitter.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of people feel that lack when they miss out on those years where they could have put it in developing, creating something, or whether it's a a
I
regular
think
job.
we are all human. We all try. Like there's something I keep saying to everyone. Like we are human. We all try our best, and sometimes we fail. We make mistakes, and there are times, for instance, when I promote a book because the book has just come out, I spend less time with my children, and definitely I have my guilt moments. But I speak with my kids, and I'm very honest to them, and I tell them, look, this is what I have to do right now. But I do miss it, spending that time with you. But we will make up for that time. And I think if you have these open conversations with them, I don't treat them. They are my children, but I also don't treat them as a partner.
Yeah.
I am very honest, and I tell them like some things I haven't done right. Sometimes I get really frustrated because things don't work out the way they should be, and then they're at the receiving end, which is not
Bless
great,
them, yeah.
and I feel sorry. At the moment, I shout. But then at the same time,
It's important. Even that is important.
They come, and like my middle one, Lena, comes to me and is like, Mommy, you know what? I think you need a hug, and then she gives me a hug. So they do understand, and it makes me relax, and I can see they still love me just as much as I love them, even though I don't spend every minute of the
and
day
also
with
gives
them.
daddies a chance to step up.
Yeah, yeah. Our dad does, yes.
They do take it for granted, and
Yeah.
and sometimes if they're in our shoes, they will appreciate us more
Yeah.
for all the unspoken work that we do, and I think sometimes being away also helps them recognize our value. And I, with passing time, I have also, which is why I have this podcast platform where I bring in these beautiful, inspiring people, where we can take these elements of feeling like, wow, if she can do it, so can I. Brings me to my next question. Do you think, is it too late for anyone to make that change? Or, I mean, if someone wants to start something which they haven't done before, they have no experience in, they probably don't have a mentor to copy or get that information. But do you think
Pursuing your dreams, I don't think it's never too late. I think you have to kind of make an assessment. You might have to change things to allow, for instance, to write a book. You have to allow, maybe you have to put some money aside. Maybe you have to kind of make with less. I don't think it's ever too late, but you have to create the situation that it works. But I think I'm driven by a lot of passion, by a lot of energy. I'm lucky to have a lot of energy, and I do give it a go. I think if you have a good, trusting base,
Yes.
i.e. your family who loves you, who supports you, who you're honest with, who sometimes you have to apologize to because you have your moments, as does anybody else, I think it's fine. I mean, my passion has been always writing books. I'm very happy that I finally pursued it, because there's a lot of people who keep saying, yeah, I want to do it one day, and then so you drag on the years, and then at some point it's not too late, but maybe you don't want to look back and think, oh, why did I not do that?
Yes.
There's certain things that are difficult to pursue, but I think it's little steps. Initially it was just one book that I wanted to write, and
Wow.
I waited a long time.
It started off with just...
That book was 5 years in the making, so sometimes it doesn't work out immediately, but it's things that you always have with you, and like eventually, you have to step up. I think you definitely have to step up for it and do it and say it, and then maybe make compromises. But I think this is what we always do. We have to compromise on certain things, but sometimes that compromise is worth it.
I agree, and I love what you said. Patience comes along the way.
Yeah.
Like you said with your first book, it took some time, but it didn't. And also, I think consistency.
Yeah.
Many times, we feel like, okay, maybe we can stop, or we can just not give up, really. But what are, as we're ending our podcast, what are those main tips or words of advice that you want to share with all those people wanting to do something, wanting to start, or maybe they're at the verge of giving up, or they're not happy, not sure. How is it? Because you're so inspiring. I'm just loving how you grew your passion into something so meaningful, and it's not just serving your own passion, but also bringing service to others. Bringing so much light, inspiration, and facilitating these wonderful young minds.
I mean, you open different doors that you might not have thought about you would open one day. So when I started, I wouldn't think I'd be going to schools and getting kids excited about reading. It was not something on my mind. I think the initial drive I had was to publish a book, like many do, and then there are lots of other things that kind of come along the way, and they're beautiful opportunities. They're untapped that you haven't really thought about. But when it comes back to advice, I think that's the producer in me. I would say do a recce.
Mm-hmm.
Make an assessment, get things into place. If you want to, I think you have to have a, firm idea, make a decision and stick to it. You have to give yourself a timeline. You have to make sure everything is things are in place. That you have the time, for instance, in terms of writing a book, you have the time to write. You might not have the time to write 10 hours a day, but who does,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe consistently every morning for an hour and a half, whatever you can do. You have to inform the people around you. Again, part of the recce to make sure people are aware, they know, they support you. Maybe, ask the kids to do the dishwasher tonight, not me, because you need to do something else. I mean, that's a very basic thing. But I think you can make time for it, but you have to find a way to organize it and then stick with it. It's not that it doesn't go with a snap of a finger. It's hard work. But I think the more you work on something, I think at the end of the day, the more rewarding it is as well. As you really feel you have really changed something,
Mm-hmm.
not the world. You don't always have to change the world, but that sort of microcosm you've changed, and as I said, your children, they will look up for it. They will, in a way, appreciate what what you have been doing, because they see the journey and the struggles, and that you've, managed to get through it, through the tunnel to
Absolutely.
the end. Yeah.
I really loved what you have shared with us. So my last question is, what is your next project? Is it something, are you going to share with us? Are you I'm sure there would be a next book, and the children would be really eagerly waiting for a second a new edition. So what is your inspiration
Lots
coming
of plans.
from?
Yes. So I've always have ideas. So it's a matter of finding the time, to as I said, to make them work. There is a new book coming out, so I love writing. I've completely fallen in love with it. I enjoy writing, particularly for that audience. Although long term, I would love to write books for older children as well.
Absolutely.
I think it's definitely something. For the time being, I think I'm going to stick with that audience because I really enjoy it.
Yes.
There is another book coming out, not until the end of the year though.
Mm-hmm.
That bookmaking takes time. There's the writing, there's the editing. We can't hit illustration stage at the moment, but it's looking beautiful. So there's a new book that's coming, and I'm very excited about it.
I'm feeling more excited than you are.
Yes.
And wow. Oh, Kathy, it is an absolute pleasure to have you with us today, and I would absolutely like to have you again on a second episode.
I would love to.
Yes,
Yes.
and have you share with us your next book and creations, and how can people reach out to you? What is your and how can they buy the books? Where are they retailed, or where are they online? Can you share?
Sure. So people who want to follow my author journey, who want to find out a bit more what I'm doing on a basis, I have an Instagram account, of course, that's kathyurbantales.
Mm-hmm.
I also have a website which I try my best to update regularly. My books are available online here in the UAE, but they're also available at various bookshops across Dubai and Abu Dhabi. So you've got Khuram, you've got Magrudi's, Kinokuniya, lots of many places. They're also, because my publisher is actually not based here but in the UK, so they're also available in the UK as well as Australia in
Wonderful.
bookshops. So yeah, and of course we have the online retailers. So yeah, if you're interested and would like to find out more, do give me a follow.
Yes, please.
Or send me a message if you're the person. I love receiving private messages as well. I get a lot of messages from mums, who are just asking sometimes about writing tips, how I got started, and I love to give advice. We've
Yes.
actually recently formed an authors group, which has been sort of a casual WhatsApp get-together group where we do share advice with one another and support each other. But we've recently launched that group online for schools to get in touch with us as well, because a lot of what we do as children's authors, especially here in the UAE, we visit schools.
Yes.
We share our passion for stories with students, and so there's another handle now to know. It's called UAE Authors.
Okay.
So it's not just me; it's many of us, and we all have different stories to tell. It's a beautiful, vibrant community of fellow authors, and I'm very proud of that little project that we're having.
Oh, yes.
Supporting each other as well. So
know.
it's wonderful.
Wonderful. And on your website, can they get it online?
Not directly, so I don't sell my books directly. So they are sold through the bookshops. But my website has links to various bookshops and has a list of the various bookshops where you can avail my books.
Amazing. So we have Madrugi's right there, and then we know where to find Kathy Urban's books. And you're my neighbor, so I will be seeing much more of you.
Yes, we're gonna have those walks.
Oh yes, and I can't wait to catch up on our next talk with you. Thank you so much, Kathy, and I can't wait to see you again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and see you next time.